evening. Welcome to Heritage Hour of the Filipino Heritage Society of Montreal. Filipinos have created ethnic diversity in Montreal and became connected to more than one cultural identity. Our second generation Filipino Canadian, although born and raised in Quebec, are likely to follow the heritage culture at their homes with their families. Heritage plays an important role in our lives, especially as Filipinos. So tonight, as a person of interest, we have Carmina Franco, a second generation Filipino Italian Canadian, who will share with us how she has connected to her bicultural heritage. Carmina, a singer and educator, currently pursuing a graduate diploma in vocal performance at McGill University Schulich School of Music. She has been a soloist and choir member for the Panday Tinig Choral Ensemble, the Lyrics Montreal Ensemble, and the Mountainside United Church. She tutors students in music theory and ear training for McGill Conservatory and teaches singing at College Regina Assumpta. For our panelists tonight, we have Edith in far right with me, or far left. She is our Director of Communication. Then next to her on her right is Nancy Castillo Carides, who is one of our administrators. And at my right end is Paul Imperial, our auditor. So tonight, I'll open up Carmina just to, have a short, I know you have been singing Filipino music. How will you describe Filipino music?
So I'm far from an expert in Filipino music, but from the music that I've sung, which was mainly classical Filipino love song, kundiman, I would describe it as very romantic and pleasing. It's very harmonious. It's the melody is incredibly smooth. You really just feel so much love coming out of this music, romantic love, but also love for country. So it's really just love as a human emotion that is so fundamental, and you can really feel that through this music, I believe, which is part of what makes it so enjoyable to hear and perform.
Carmina, what gave you the interest in going into singing?
I've tried to convince myself many times throughout to not pursue music, because everybody knows that, what's said about it is that it's a difficult field. Difficult, it's competitive, it's not particularly secure. We know all that, but at the end of the day, it's something that I think is so important for people to experience, and it's an honor for me to be able to dedicate my time and my study to something that I think can bring so much joy. What inspired me specifically, I guess I've always had music in my ears at home. My mother would always be playing tapes for me, especially as a child, Bach, Mozart. My father would sing to me. He's quite the opera lover, and some uncles as well. So it's always been in my ears, and so I feel this love for it from my dad's side, and on my mom's side, this appreciation for it as something that is also intellectually stimulating. And so it's been this combination of this unison of let's say art and science in a way that comes into music that I found very inspiring and that I've always had in my ears growing up. And yeah, I guess I'm here now.
Going back to your Filipino songs, if you have a Filipino repertoire, What is your favorite song in your collection of Filipino repertoire?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would have to say, I guess it's the first one that I ever sang as a soloist. Ano Kayang Kapalaran. That one is it's something, and it's meaningful to me too, obviously, as one of the first pieces of Filipino music that I wanted to set in my voice. But there's also so much music not for soloists, particularly in the choir with Panday Tinig, that was so beautiful. I'd have a hard time to say which is my favorite.
Ano Kayang Kapalaran is a kundiman by Francisco Santiago. And kundiman is an emblematic song style of Filipino music, so much so that it was a vehicle that enabled the expression of patriotic sentiment during times of colonial oppression. So what appeared in the surface as a love song was also subtextually a song of love for the Filipino nation. I hope you enjoy.
When I first met you, my question was, why are you joining? What's your interest in joining a Filipino choir? And you answered me to understand more of its culture. Now my question is, you've been with us since 2017. Have you known a little bit more than you used to know about the Filipino culture? And was it all through singing or just by mingling with us?
Well, absolutely. I have learned so much more. I felt a lot more involved, and it's both. And I guess that is also what music is. It's this communal experience, and so it has been through the music, and it has been through the musicians performing it, and through the community coming to see these performances, or it's being surrounded by Filipino culture like this has been incredibly rewarding, and I'm very grateful.
So, Carmina, coming from a bicultural background, what are the experiences you have done to connect yourself to each of your mothers being a Filipina and your fathers being an Italian of their heritage?
I can't say there's much that I've done completely intentionally. I guess at the end of the day, a lot of it just ends up being what your parents introduce you to, and then you just kind of perhaps develop from there. I do love cooking. I'm not an amazing cook, but it's fun. Well, actually, what I really like is eating. So food has been a great way to connect to my heritage. So through my mom, I grew up eating pancit, lumpia, and I also love tropical fruits. Durian is my favorite. And so it's just been, and then obviously there's my dad's side, and he has some of his family in Montreal as well. Two of his sisters, and my mom actually learned how to cook Italian food with them as well. So I've had both culinary cultures. And there's also music, of course, Italian music, classical Italian music, and Filipino music. But overall, I would say it was really just a product of circumstance. My father spoke to me in Italian. He's always spoken to me in Italian, and we've gone back to Italy many times. I spent so much time in Italy growing up. I'm also very close to my family there, so it's been easy to keep in touch in that way with Italian culture, and I consume Italian media because of the language. I didn't have the same opportunities with my Filipino side, and I really wish I did. But I understand too, because my mom doesn't have any of her family here in Montreal, and we never went back to the Philippines. She also spoke to me in English. So, and don't get me wrong, she's a proud Filipina, but I guess she was just less inspired to speak to me in Tagalog since she has been away from her family from so long and alone here. And she and my father speak English. So I think that's just what ended up being more practical to her. But this is where I would take a moment to implore all parents to speak to their children in their mother tongues because it's I do wish I spoke Tagalog. I saw how meaningful it was to speak Italian to connect to my Italian side, and so it's unfortunate that I can't do the same with my Filipino side. But at the same time, I have been able to experience Filipino culture through Filipino Montreal and Filipino Canadian communities. And of course, Filipinos speak excellent English. So there's that. And my involvement in these communities has been very fulfilling, and you've been so welcoming, and there's so much you do. And so actually, thank you sincerely to the Filipino Heritage Society as well for sharing and promoting this culture, because that's also how I've come to learn so much for this side of myself.
Carmina, how do you feel being a Filipino Italian youngster living in Quebec?
Yeah, it's I think bicultural identities can be complicated. I think a lot of mixed people can have a hard time defining themselves ethnically, because I think we're so used to, ethnicities are normally, ethnic identity is usually monocultural. And it's difficult perhaps because the histories and traditions and languages that are passed down to us always stem from one culture at a time. In my case, there's no Filipino Italian tradition. There are Filipino traditions and there are Italian traditions. And so I'm never experiencing in a given moment Italian Filipino-ness. I'm always experiencing one or the other, but I suppose in my blood technically have both. And so I don't entirely have an answer to this. Something that I find really interesting is actually something that a friend in high school told me, somebody who was half Portuguese, half Moroccan. And she said that the way she felt was that she was 100% Portuguese and 100% Moroccan. Now, of course, that doesn't make sense mathematically, but what I found so interesting about that was that it just goes to show that identity is not mathematic. It's shaped by experience. And so in a given moment, you're always, you are still fully partaking in an experience with a community. And so, yeah, it's both as complicated and as simple as that. And actually, something that I also saw come up, a word that I was introduced to, that I've kind of heard going around in the past 2 years in North America, is this idea of this term hapa. There's some controversy to its use. I know it's originally a Hawaiian term for someone of Hawaiian and non-Hawaiian ancestry. Usually the non-Hawaiian part is Caucasian, but it's also commonly used for half Southeast or East Asian ancestry in general. I won't talk about the controversy because, quite frankly, I don't know enough about it to say anything, but what I find interesting is that it's the appearance of an identity that is bicultural. So some people might find something satisfying there, an identity that's satisfying there, that's perhaps more totalizing. But again, I don't think there's a reason to see yourself as being split in half anyway when you're two things. So again, I think just embrace it, live fully the experiences that each side of you that each side is introducing to you, and the cultures that have shaped you, and the way that they've shaped you. And as for living this in Quebec in particular, I think the fact that it is a multicultural society does simplify things because there's so much cultural exchange. Everybody is shaped by multiple cultures in different ways, whether or not they carry them in their blood. It can be through friends that we have, or through obviously going through an Anglophone or Francophone school system. These are also cultures, things that shape us. And so yeah, ethnic identity is complicated, and I think it's meant to be complicated. And that's also just what makes it simple, just accepting it, and yeah, not being afraid to claim what you feel, and to dig deep into what interests you.
Carmina, in your course of study, I assume you would have to sing songs in different languages. What languages would this be?
So the languages in which the majority, or in which the standard, let's say the classics are in, are normally English, French, Italian, and German. So this is speaking of classical singing, but there is a lot of interest, I would say, at McGill for also languages beyond this. Actually, I assisted, I went to see a recital of an instructor's studio last semester, and there was a Filipino student who sang kundiman, and that was my first time seeing Filipino music being performed in this academic context at McGill, and I was very happy to see that. So it's absolutely something that could be done and that McGill encourages. I've sang personally, so I have sang in these 4 principal languages, but at McGill I've also performed in Russian, just because my instructor also had a good knowledge of that repertoire. So you really could do any language, really, but classically you would need to know how to navigate at least those 4 in your training. Ideally, that's what you would aim for.
Again, in your study, what did you major in, or what did you minor in?
Right, so I majored in vocal performance in my undergrad, and I shopped around a little bit. I did a semester in commerce. I did, and then I ended up switching to philosophy. So I completed a minor in philosophy by the end of my undergrad. I've always had a very wide range of interests. I actually really chose to fully dedicate myself to music really right at the very end, right at the end of my CJEP. Even in CJEP, I didn't pursue a musical degree. I did arts and sciences, sciences lettres at Jean de Brébeuf, and did classes with the McGill Conservatory on the side that I then ended up loving so much, and that I ended up realizing that music was really what I wanted to do. But it was also by cultivating this wide range of interests that I saw that music was also what I wanted to do, not because I saw that I didn't like anything else, but because when everything is, at the end of the day, it's just, you learn how to think, you learn how to reflect and consider all sorts of things. And in a way, I felt like even my literature classes and my philosophy classes and my science classes are also because they showed me what it meant in any discipline to dedicate yourself. I mean, any discipline becomes an art when you're inspired by it and when you dedicate yourself to it. And so I lost track of that question a little bit, but hopefully that
Do you have, Carmina, do you have a long-term goal of performing something in the future? And what is that something?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's also a dreaded question. Do I have any dream performances? I think perhaps because of my name, perhaps because I don't know what it is, but I would love to perform Carmen on stage one day.
Wow.
That would be very cool. We'll see if my voice makes it there. I don't know if that'll end up being the type of role or repertoire that'll be right for me, but there's something in that character that
I'll watch for it.
Yeah.
So what is the highest note that you can sing comfortably?
Ooh, comfortably. Not
Yes.
comfortably, it's not very high. I don't have a very wide range. I would have to say it's probably the F or G above the high C. The F or G, I'm looking over there because my piano's over there. The F or the G above the high C. I have vocalized up to almost the F, an octave above that, but that is not consistent at all. No way.
So you would be classified what kind of a soprano then?
Mezzo soprano, actually.
Mezzo, okay.
The medium female voice type. Yeah.
You know, with Filipinos have rich heritage. Okay, your mother being a Filipino, what heritage that stands out that your mother have shared with you?
Actually, I think there is an inherent musicality to Filipinos, and it probably comes out of the language as well. Like Tagalog is a very musical language, like Italian. I think both are very similar in that they have a lot of very nice open sounds and clear consonants. And I think that's why both languages are pleasant to sing. And I mean, a testament to it is the amount of excellent Filipino interpreters. I mean, the reputation is international. Filipino singers in particular are there's so many incredible technique. I mean, in pop especially, there's so many we know of, and this singing is a very physical thing, and it's, you know, somewhat to say even instinctive to a lot of us. And I think that the fact that there are so many singers that come out of the Philippines and that have this reputation is a testament to something going on in the culture, in the language. I don't know, that just inspires that kind of thing.
Carmina, what gave you the interest in knowing more about Filipino culture?
Yeah, the interest is my mother, really, this whole half of me, this whole half of me that I felt was underexplored, especially when I contrast it to my Italian side too. I am very connected to my Italian side, and it seems so, and it's been very rewarding to be so connected to that part, to my blood in that way, that I want to do the same with this other part of me. And so I'd say that was the main inspiration, was knowing just how enriching it is. And I think it's a basic, I don't know, human curiosity that we all have. I mean, if we look at the popularity of DNA testing kits in the past few years, people are just curious about, I think, where they come from, and like to situate themselves in the movement of history of their ancestors. And there's a lot of peace, but also empowerment to be found, I think, in feeling like, knowing that you come from something, and feeling like you belong to that, like that you're part of something greater than yourself. And so, yeah, I'd say that's what it was.
I will ask something. I know you were one of the contestants for Miss Philippines in Montreal. Yeah, how share us that experience, and with all the it is like in a culture in the Philippines, you have so many beauty pageants, little girls, and when you were joining it, how did you feel about it?
It's true. It's definitely something that is more popular in Filipino culture than it is maybe in mainstream Canadian culture, let's say. Well, Canadian culture, like Caucasian Canadian culture. I guess I never thought that, I never expected that I would join a beauty pageant, because I was not, again, I was not exposed to a lot of Filipino media growing up, so I didn't have I didn't see that many beauty pageants, though my mom does like to follow this universe a lot. She will follow that. I don't often watch it with her, but I see her sometimes watching it. And so when the opportunity came by to participate in the Montreal pageant, it seemed fun, and I appreciate that. Obviously, it's called a beauty pageant, but at the end, us girls, they were dancing, they were painting, I sang, obviously, and so this was also another way, again, to share and partake in culture, in entertainment and cultural entertainment. And so it really was just a fun experience, and fun to be around other Filipinas my age, Montreal Filipinas in particular. So there's a big cultural experience that we had in common there, cultural background, that we had in common there, that you don't always get to meet somebody that's so specifically that comes so specifically from a similar background. So it was, just overall a lot of fun.
You said you are a cook, or it's your mom?
I like cooking. I have fun cooking. I am not a very good cook, but I have an interest there. And then I said, what the real interest though is food. And then that comes from that comes from the fact that my mom is a good cook. At the end of the day, she was the one to make me all these dishes that inspired my palate and my desire for more. Yeah, no, it's mommy.
So what is your favorite dish then?
My favorite dish? Oh God.
Filipino.
My favorite Filipino dish? It's hard. Adobo, maybe. Just classic. I love sampao, lumpia. Jake's
No dinuguan?
Jake's.
With the blood pudding.
Yeah, yes.
Would you like to go home to the Philippines?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've never met my family there, for starters, so already that would mean so much. I've been in touch with them through Facebook. We first started speaking when I was a teenager, right? When we first started using Facebook. So every once in a while, there'll be something. And I'm happy also to see my mom call her family as well. That was something that as a child, without, social media was not as much of a thing. My mom eventually got onto it as well. She's from another generation, obviously, so she got onto it even later than I did. But now that she's very comfortable with it, it's nice to see her be in touch with her family through, and see each other's faces. And I get to see them too that way. But of course, it would mean the world to me to be able to finally see them in person.
You are so successful in music. How would you encourage the youngsters to also do music?
I think you just, I don't know if I can say I've been successful, but I'm going on. I'm pushing forward. And I think if you were to ask me this 10, 20 years from now, I'd probably answer the same thing. I mean, I think you just need to be humble. I think in music, in the performing arts or in arts in general, we can get, but I think in a lot of things, we can really, we tend to get caught up in ourselves, both in an egotistical way, but also in a self-critical way, because excessive self-criticism and self-consciousness is also just being excessively caught up in yourself. And I think when you're humble, when you just think about the fact that it's not about you, it's about maybe, I don't know, the what you want to share with the world, or just plain and simply what feels good, what you want to do. Just take it as that, one step at a time. Just do that.
Okay. So my question first is, do you have any siblings? And then the second one is, at what age did you start learning how to play the piano? Because you really, really play very good piano. So I'm interested.
So I do not have any siblings. I'm an only child. And I started playing the piano when I was 6.
My question to you is, obviously you grew up on two cultures, the Italian and the Filipino culture. My question is, who has the biggest influence in your choice in career?
It's so hard to say, again, also because of what I was saying earlier. I suppose it really is a mix of both. I think the most obvious answer would be the Italian side, because I am pursuing classical singing, and classical European singing was, I don't want to say it was, well, opera was born in Italy. And so obviously it's a huge tradition there, and it's one that my Italian family has felt very connected to. Like I said, my father would sing Verdi and Puccini, and I have uncles who tell stories about his grandfather and what music meant to them. And so that's, I suppose, a very direct link. But again, like I was saying before, on my Filipino side, there's this great affinity for music that is found in Filipino culture as well, in Filipinos, such as the fact that there's excellent Filipino interpreters and also beautiful music that we've been speaking about. And my mother was the one to really push me to take music classes, actually. She was the one that insisted on piano. And I can't remember a time where I didn't want to take music lessons, but she assures me that there was a time where I did not. And it was more insistence than encouragement early on, I'm sure. So it really was both. Yeah.
Carmina, what do you love being a half Filipino? My children is half Filipino too, that's why I asked you that.
What do I love about being a bicultural child, particularly half Filipino?
Half Italian.
Yeah.
I suppose that yeah, just to have access to these different cultures through my family. So in a very warm, very immediate environment. It's very enriching.
So coming from Carmina, thank you for your love of music. And of course, music allows us to feel nearly all our emotions that we experience in our lives. Filipino music tells the story of the Philippines through its melodies and rhythm. Because music is valuable, our cultural heritage has become rich, colorful, and vibrant, just like us, the Filipino people. So again, thank you, Carmina. As you have stated, there is great meaning and peace to be found when we open ourselves to the arts, and through them, to the essential human experience. So thank you to all our panelists, and I leave you all with this. How well do you know your family history and your heritage? So this is Amy Mananog of the Heritage Hour of the Filipino Heritage Society of Montreal. Thank you for having us, and good night.